This is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
It's a Monday on the BG Sports Show, and just like Sam and I, the NFL world has lost its mind. We don't even know what in God's great green earth just happened yesterday, but we are going to talk about all that action. We're going to talk about what in the world is going on in Green Bay. We're going to talk about maybe Peyton Manning being benched. Maybe, hopefully. We're going to talk about that and so much more on the BG Sports Show today. Connor Christensen will be here a little bit later on today as well, as we will be chatting with him about Ronda Rousey getting drop kicked to the face, to put it lightly. She was upset by Holly Holm, so we'll have him on to chat about that a little bit later on in the show, and so many other things as well. But before we do any of that, we do want to take a moment to remind all of you people that you can find us right here on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time and live from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Hello to all of you watching on Periscope. Good to see you. I know some of our loyal viewers have been already tuning in and giving us their thoughts and feelings about things happening in the sports world, Sam, which we always love to see.
Yes, we do.
You can also get the show on demand on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and on Spreaker.com as well.
And you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook at The BG Sports Show. We are on Instagram at BG Sports Show. And you can find us on Twitter. The studio is at BG Sports Show. Baxter's at Baxter Colbert, and I am at Samuel_Wallace 2.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of big things to get to today, Sam. First, starting with the NFL, though, in terms of the crazy week that was. So why don't you walk us through some of the games, Sam?
Yeah, starting off with the Cowboys slide on over to Florida, take on Tampa Bay, and still have yet to win a game without Tony Romo, and they haven't won a game with Greg Hardy.
Yeah, it's been quite
for what it's worth.
That's also very true,
yeah.
Depending on how you want to look at it. I mean, Dallas is just kind of a hot mess right now. They get Tony Romo back next week, Sam, but I honestly don't even know if it's worth it for them to bother with that.
Too late. 2-7 right now. Their season's
So
gone.
What do you do? Do you bother bringing him in?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. I don't think you risk an injury at this point in the season. Let him heal. Just let him get some reps in maybe, but I would say you almost just treat it like preseason, give some guys some reps, just start building your team.
Start thinking of that top 5 draft pick.
Yeah, you almost got to be fighting for it now.
At this point, I mean,
yeah.
If you're 2-7, the Lions won yesterday, so they're trying to go off script and try to go for a top 10 instead of a top 5. But
they're
we'll
2-7.
get to that later.
Titans are 2-7.
Yeah, there's just a lot of bad teams in the NFL right now. The Browns are 2-8. Ravens are 2-7. My goodness. All right, so yeah. Aside from this, I mean, it was nice to see that Tampa Bay got a victory yesterday.
Yeah.
As they're 4-5, they're still trying to keep pace with Atlanta in their division. And Carolina as well. I doubt it's going to really amount to anything, but for a rookie quarterback like Jameis Winston, it is good for him to get a little bit of confidence scoring that game-winning rushing touchdown also.
Yeah, no kidding. Considering the Buccaneers nobody found the end zone in that game until late in the fourth quarter. It was pretty just a blah.
It was a kicker's game yesterday.
Yeah, man, not even. Only 3 field goals. That was it. Cowboys were shut out in the second half. Just tough game all around.
It was a very tough game yesterday. A game that was actually pretty simple yesterday, though, was Carolina taking on Tennessee. Carolina remains undefeated. They win 27-10 over the Tennessee Titans. Cam Newton goes 21 of 26 for 217 yards and a touchdown.
Very efficient.
Yeah, very efficient day from him. Jonathan Stewart, 22 carries, 91 yards and a touchdown. Greg Olsen, 8 catches for 80 yards. It just seemed like a pretty.
Yeah.
It was a good day for Carolina. They walked into the building, they took care of business, and they left.
Yeah, shut down the Titans in the second half. Defense locked up and didn't allow a score. Yeah, it was very good.
Absolutely,
very, very good to see.
It was, yeah, similar to a very good performance as a whole. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Chicago Bears looked really good yesterday. They looked very good.
Went to St. Louis and took down a very, very good Rams defense.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you talk about the St. Louis Rams, I feel every season them and the Minnesota Vikings are always kind of like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
And Chicago, up to this point, has not been very good. Mm-mm. And we're all like, all right, well, we don't think that Chicago is going to, do much against St. Louis. I actually took St. Louis winning this game.
Yeah, so did I.
Got that wrong. But Jay Cutler yesterday looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for that specific game.
Yeah.
19 of 24, 258 yards, and 3 touchdowns yesterday.
Very efficient again. Only 5 incompletions, thrown for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. The biggest thing for Jay was no turnovers.
Yes. And I think everybody in Chicago was like, wait a minute, we won a game, and Jay didn't throw an interception or fumble the ball. Somebody on Cam Fitch 32 on Periscope says that Jay dropped 30 fantasy points yesterday. Yeah, it was... He looked really good yesterday. Jeremy Langford had himself quite a day also yesterday, along with Zach Miller as well. So for all of you out there that I'm sure have stockpiled Bear players on your team.
Zach Miller. Yeah.
Zach Miller had 2 receiving touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah. Jeremy Langford is filling the stat box with 73 yards on the ground and a score, and 109 yards through the air and a score. So,
Yeah, 2 touchdowns from him over it's just a great day. Honestly, he just had a fantastic day as a whole. Not nearly as good as Kirk Cousins yesterday, though.
Yeah, no kidding. Again, another quarterback that was very, very efficient. Only 5 incompletions, 324 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But what we have seen, and we've said week in and week out, the Saints' defense, for as many points as they usually put up on the board, their defense is bad.
Yeah, it is terrible. And we talked about this a little bit leading up to this game, saying, well, I mean, if the Saints are playing a game, they just need to be able to score more points than the other team. Well, yeah, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but their defense isn't going to do anything, so their offense does need to show up. And yesterday was a case where Drew Brees did not get it done. And Washington's defense looked really scary yesterday. They looked really good.
Yeah, again, shutting out the Saints in the second half. And a cool story that somebody just brought up on Periscope that I was going to bring up as well is Kirk Cousins' dad got to watch him play the game yesterday. And, he had been battling cancer for a while, and then he also got the game ball from his son, from Kirk. So
I saw that.
That was a cool moment.
That was a very exceptionally cool moment, and I'm glad that Mr. Cousins was able to share in his son's spoils.
Yeah.
Did you see the post-game interview? You like that?
No,
did you see it?
I
Oh, Kirk was given an interview with Aaron Andrews or somebody after the game,
Yeah.
and one of his big defensive linemen just comes and puts his arms around him, just staring at the camera while he's talking, looking at him, nodding, no, and then he just stops and looked at him. He's like, "You like that? You like that?" And walked away.
Man, Kirk Cousins
Yeah.
the new hype machine.
Just
here.
oh, okay, all right. It was pretty cool.
Gotta love it.
Exactly. A game yesterday that didn't really mean too much for either team except for Philly because they're trying to keep pace with the Giants. The Dolphins ended up going with a victory of 20-19 after Philadelphia led in this game 16-3. Philadelphia came back and scored 17 points on the road to upset possibly the Philadelphia Eagles.
I do like what the Dolphins are doing. I really do. I think, almost every week I say, I'm a little disappointed by how they played. I think they have a lot of offensive weapons on that team. I think they really do.
They do.
So it was good to see them pull out a win. Again, 4-5, just trying to hang in there, try to keep pace.
I mean, in the division with the Patriots, it's hard to hang in there.
Yeah.
And Buffalo and the Jets are also looking fairly decent as well.
Yeah.
So that division as a whole is going to be pretty hard to...
They're all fighting for second place.
They pretty much are. For another thing that I thought was interesting yesterday, that Mark Sanchez had to step in for Sam Bradford after Bradford hurt his left arm, not his ACL or his MCL or anything to do with his lower body. It was his arm he hurt this time.
Jeez.
Sanchez ended up throwing the game-losing interception.
Sanchez.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are you going to do on that point, honestly?
Not much.
Exactly. So, a weird situation yesterday. Also, Landry Jones started for Pittsburgh. He ended up getting hurt after one of his offensive linemen stomped on his foot accidentally during a play. So Ben Roethlisberger came off the bench, still injured, because they have nobody else, because Michael Vick is hurt. Landry Jones was the last quarterback on the roster.
Their fourth-string quarterback is on the practice squad.
And that would have meant the kicker or somebody would have had to have shown. I think Antonio Brown actually played quarterback in high school or college.
In the game report, they actually said Heath Miller was kind of on the docket and was told that, hey, if it comes down to an emergency situation, Heath Miller, you're the man.
That's fan. He's a big guy. He would have been a good quarterback.
Tight end, yeah.
So Pittsburgh just sat back in shotgun, threw Roethlisberger back there, and he just threw quick slant routes the entire day and ended up having one of the best days of his career yesterday.
Yeah, he had the second most passing yards by halftime of any game of his career, and he broke every backup quarterback, quote-unquote, reserve role record yesterday, even though he filled the stat box with 22 completions for almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
My goodness. Pittsburgh goes to 6-4. The Browns go to 2-8. Johnny Manziel actually played fairly well yesterday, and that's one thing that you will not hear a lot about.
No, up until mid-late in the fourth quarter, again, he was very, very efficient. He was 20 for 25 with 200 yards. He wasn't losing the game. He really wasn't. He just couldn't really seem to finish the drive. And I don't know if a lot of that's on him. I mean, you normally won't hear me defending anything that Johnny Football does.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, but he looked very competent, especially in a tough environment playing at Heinz Field.
Yeah, somebody mentioning on Periscope saying that he almost got his neck broken yesterday, too, after getting his head turned around on a bad face mask call. And that's kind of what happens, though, when you've got those Browns-Steelers games or Browns-Bengals games or any of those AFC North games are always going to be a little extra physical.
Yeah, they're tough.
Exactly. The Jacksonville Jaguars snapped a 13-game losing streak on the road. Go Jaguars. They win 22-20.
I mean, somebody's got to win that game.
I'm glad it was Jacksonville because it helped me with my fantasy team as well.
There you go. Ravens aren't looking good. They're not.
No. Nope, they're really not, honestly. Flacco and company, I mean, they're missing Steve Smith at the wide receiver position, but they're just missing Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and every other great defensive person they've ever had on their defense. And now without Terrell Suggs this season as well, they just look awful.
Yeah, not looking great.
Aside from that, Jacksonville goes to 3-6. The Ravens go to 2-7. Minnesota took on Oakland yesterday, a game that was fairly well hyped.
Yeah.
Although it didn't exactly live up to the hype, unfortunately. Minnesota putting up 30 points at Oakland to beat them 30-14 yesterday.
Yeah, Oakland only scoring in the second quarter, putting up 2 touchdowns. Adrian Peterson, though, wow.
What a great game from him, honestly. 26 carries for 203 yards and 1 touchdown. Fantasy owners, I'm sure, were thrilled by his plus 20-point performance yesterday.
You were.
I was very thrilled by that. That's why I drafted him.
Yeah.
But Minnesota, though, scoring 10 points in the first, second, and fourth quarters. Oakland only scoring 14 points in the second quarter. Amari Cooper was held to just 5 catches for 79 yards yesterday, even though Derek Carr did throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a perfect game, a good timing game for AP to have just a monster game on the ground. Teddy coming back off of a concussion, not sure, how effective he was going to be, maybe things like that, and AP made it very, very easy for him. And again, we always mention this, but a great way to make a young quarterback more confident, more comfortable in the pocket is to surround him with a good running game.
Absolutely.
And AP is definitely doing that.
Oh, 100% of that. We had somebody on Periscope saying going Vikings. We had somebody saying that they're a 49ers fan as well. So a win next week against the Pack would be so huge. That's absolutely true. It looks like that is Mr. Herbert 1. Yeah, we're absolutely agreeing with you on that one. We're actually going to talk about the Packers-Vikings in our next segment, so don't miss that. Rounding out the action, Sam, it was the Patriots doing Patriot things to outlast the Giants to win 27-26 and stay undefeated.
The Giants have been like Patriot killers here in the last 5 or 6 years, and if anybody can find a way to beat Bill Belichick, it's been Tom Coughlin.
It really has.
Yeah, it was almost too bad for the Giants. I mean, I think they had a really good chance. That Odell Beckham touchdown called back in the final minutes of the game was a little controversial.
Yes.
We'll see if that goes anywhere. I guess I myself couldn't really decide. It was one of those calls. It's like,
it was very, very hard to call.
Did he get both feet down? It's one of those things too where it's almost unfortunate sometimes with officiating because whatever the initial call is, sometimes that can determine how hard or not so hard it is to turn it back the other way. Because if there's not conclusive evidence to turn it the other way, even if the call was maybe wrong early, they can't flip it.
Yep, exactly. No, that's the hard part about it, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, though, the Patriots did lose Julian Edelman to an injury as well, so they will lose him to a broken foot for the remainder of the regular season. They hope to get him back for the postseason because 9 times out of 10 they will be there, barring some weird whatever.
Yeah.
So losing Julian Edelman will be huge for that organization. And then wrapping up the action, it was the Chiefs that surprisingly took down the Broncos 29-13. Peyton Manning became the lone quarterback to have the most passing yards in NFL history.
Yep.
However, he did throw 4 interceptions and was benched in the third quarter as well.
Gosh, starting 5 for 20.
Just not what you want from a future Hall of Fame quarterback and a Super Bowl winning quarterback at that.
Not looking good.
No, absolutely not. And then the Arizona Cardinals outlasting the Seattle Seahawks at home last night. They went into Seattle and won 39-32.
Quite a marathon game. It was a lot of fun to watch.
It was. I was able to catch the first half of that. And I'll be honest, that first half, Arizona looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle looked great kind of in the third and the first half of the fourth quarter. I was getting a little worried because I was really pulling for Arizona, but they locked down and were able to get the job done.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to jump aside to a break. When we come back, it is going to be time to chat about the Green Bay Packers and what the heck happened against the Detroit Lions. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
All right, well, Sam, we want to take a quick moment to thank one of our sponsors of the BG Sports Show. That would be Student Debt Center. You can call them today to have your student loan payment reduced. You can call 855-401-3508.
Yeah, that number again is 855-401-3508.
All right, Sam, it's time to look at what in the world happened to the Green Bay Packers against the Detroit Lions yesterday. Not exactly the prettiest game. And the scoreline does not reflect just how poorly I feel the Packers played yesterday, because the game on paper looks much closer than it realistically was for anybody that actually took time to watch that game.
Yeah, it's kind of what it was last week, too, when they played the Panthers. The box score looks a lot closer than how the game actually played out. I guess one bet that I definitely would have lost yesterday was that Aaron Rodgers would have more passing attempts than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, you would always assume, like, well, Detroit's probably going to be behind in this game, so Matt Stafford is going to just have to, air the ball out like crazy. And it was, like you said, it was vice versa, although Aaron Rodgers had almost as many completions as Stafford had attempts yesterday.
Yeah. 35 of 61. That 61 is a career high for Rodgers as far as passing attempts goes.
And he's not exactly been playing for 1 or 2 years. He's been playing for a while. And the fact that he's never thrown 61 passes in a game is, well, not entirely surprising, because he's usually fairly efficient. He hasn't needed to throw 61 passes in a game to keep his team in a game.
And to only put up 16 points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When is the last time that you thought that you would see Matt Stafford finish with a higher quarterback rating?
Than Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
In Green Bay?
In Green Bay.
Never.
Yeah.
This is like a total anomaly. This just does not happen.
Yeah, and I feel like, now someone on Periscope is pushing the button that I was going to try not to push right away, but someone is saying that if Nelson and Lacey were both healthy, that this would be an undefeated Packers team. And I have to strongly disagree with that, because Green Bay was undefeated for 6 weeks with the personnel that they have right now, with a barely playing Eddie Lacy and a decent wide receiver core.
Correct.
And then it all just kind of went to hell after that.
It did.
So
yeah, it's hard to say that, because, like you said, if the Packers had been struggling all year without Jordy Nelson, without a fully healthy Eddie Lacy, maybe we could have that. Maybe we could have that discussion. But like you said, they beat 6 teams.
Exactly.
With the only switch that was that went into this game was Lacy was benched. That was it. And yeah, Starks didn't play great. He only averaged 2.8 yards a carry on 15 attempts. They really never attempted to establish the run game.
No.
Yeah.
I think with Green Bay, they kind of feel like they're going to try to run the ball 5 to 10 times right away in the first or second quarter.
Yeah.
And if there's no massively gaping hole right off the bat, they're just like, all right, screw it.
No, Rodgers,
down with the game.
Yeah.
Just, go Rodgers, throw the ball.
Yeah.
And you are correct as well. They do bring up the fact that Randall Cobb was not targeted enough yesterday. He was targeted 10 times yesterday. What I think is ridiculous is that Devontae Adams was targeted 21 times yesterday.
I was going to bring that up too. I don't think I've ever seen. I'm going to start really paying attention now to a wide receiver that's been targeted 21 times.
And it is something in the fact of why in the world was it Devontae Adams? I get it that he had the rookie corner on him and he ended up having another guy that was not very good.
Yeah.
But for the 21, after about 10 to 15 times where, number one, he couldn't hold on to the dang ball to save his life, or he wasn't getting any call his way, I wouldn't. If I'm Rodgers, I'm like, look, I love you, bro, but I'm not throwing you the ball anymore. Because you're not, number one, holding on to the ball and you're not making a good play for it.
I mean, yeah, he did. If you take out the target column, he did have 10 catches, 79 yards.
He did.
Not a bad day at the office. Just very efficient, helping move the chains. But yeah, the fact that he was just under 50% for receptions. Same with Randall Cobb, right at 50%. It was nice to see Justin Perillo.
Yeah, good for him.
Reel in that touchdown. 5 of 6 targets. Jared Abbrederis, 4 of 7.
Yep.
James Starks, 6 of 7. Cobb, 5 of 10. Rodgers, 5 of 5
Woo!
for a touchdown. Quietly being successful. He's kind of been the one bright spot on the Packers offense.
Exactly, and I was watching this game yesterday, and I was one of the folks I was watching it with said, well, why is Abbrederis and why is Jeff Janis not in? And I think that a lot of that has to go along the fact that Abbrederis has more of a rapport with Rodgers than Jeff Janis ever has.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the thing I've heard about Jared Abbrederis too is he's not overly big, overly physical, overly fast, just kind of I don't want to call him your average wide receiver.
Sure.
But they said he's a great route runner. He's very crisp.
Yep.
He makes good turns, he makes good cuts, and he plays very smart. He knows exactly where he should be on the field.
Exactly, yeah, and that's one of the things I feel like that if I'm quarterback for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying, hey, I want Jared on the field more than I want Jeff. Nothing against Jeff, but I just trust him more.
Exactly.
When the game's on the line, I want to throw that ball to Jared.
Yep.
So if you're Green Bay and now you're 3-6, you've lost 3 games in a row, And I know after they lost to Denver, folks were saying, all right, nobody freak out. It's one game. And then they lost to Carolina. People say, hey, it's 2 games. Nobody freak out.
It's like they lost to 2 undefeated teams on the road.
Exactly.
I get it.
You know, going into yesterday's kickoff, those teams were combined 15-1 before they had to play Detroit. They're like, wow, you know, the odds are kind of against Green Bay, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And then they go and lose to a 1-7 Lions team who they haven't lost to at Lambeau Field since 1991, as Joe Buck reminded us about 4,000 times yesterday.
I mean, it was before our time, but still.
It's true.
Man, that's weird.
It is weird, yeah. I mean, it's fun. It was funny to see a lot of the millennials on Facebook and Twitter yesterday saying, wow, this is the first time the Lions have won in my lifetime, like at Lambeau Field.
It's like, all right.
Like,
you know, it's true for us too, but I almost consider myself to be like, all right, I was basically around at that point. I was still like a thought.
Exactly. Exactly. You were probably hanging out in mom's womb at that point. Like, come on, just like, it doesn't really make a big difference, honestly. Yes, it's a big deal from a statistical point saying, wow,
24 years.
Yeah, they defied the odds. Like, good for you to try.
All records will fall at some point.
Exactly.
It's like when Rodgers first threw that interception this year,
everybody lost their minds.
Oh my gosh.
It was
stop the train. Everyone get off right now.
Exactly. Green Bay's terrible. Like people were literally flying out. So my statement that I made a few weeks ago, I feel still rings true, is that Green Bay needs a new running back. Because I'm not sold on what Eddie Lacy has been able to do since he's been in Green Bay. And James Starks, to me, just doesn't seem like the right fit to be a full-time running back.
Yeah, I like James Starks a lot. I really do. He's a great spell back. You know, he can come in, relieve Eddie Lacy for a couple downs. You know, it almost reminds me of, this is going back quite a few years,
boy.
The Packers actually had a pretty good ground game with Ahman Green.
Oh, yeah.
And Ahman Green...
What a great guy.
Ahman Green could get the job done for like 3 quarters, and then when the Packers would build up a lead, they'd bring in Najee Davenport as like their backup running back.
Najee.
Davenport would be fresh.
He was a big guy,
He
too.
was big and physical, and he would just pound the snot out of defensive lines who had to put up with Ahman Green all game.
Yep.
And Najee Davenport would come in, rush for like 10 carries for like 70 yards. Just a great yards per carry average because he was beating up a very tired defensive line. And I kind of feel that's the same way with Starks, like, because every once in a while you look at his box score, and it's surprisingly good. Like, his average is always, up there pretty high. He cuts the corners well. He hits the holes pretty hard. But yeah, we don't have anybody that can step up ahead of him right now, and Lacy's just not getting the job done.
Exactly. I mean, we saw some good performances yesterday from the Packers defense. Clinton Dix had 11 total tackles. Nate Palmer looked pretty good as well. Clay Matthews, once again, though, the Packers pass rush was pretty non-existent yesterday.
3rd game in a row not recording a sack.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford did throw 1 interception, which was a fantastic individual effort from Clinton Dix. Aside from that, though, as you mentioned, Sam, 3rd game in a row without a sack. This was a Packers team that led the NFL in sacks in the NFC, actually, for the first 6 to 7 weeks of the year. And then, just like we've mentioned, just kind of forgotten defensively how to bring pressure.
Just disappeared.
And a lot of that maybe can be attested to. Well, maybe they played bad teams. That's going to be curious to know what happens when they play Minnesota next week, who's had a hard time keeping Teddy Bridgewater off the ground as well, which we'll get to in our next segment. But if I'm Green Bay, though, after this game, I'm trying to think of what the positives are that you can take away from this game because, yes, realistically, Rodgers didn't have a bad game on paper. If you actually watch the game, I was not thrilled. Aaron Rodgers looked horrible yesterday, again.
Yeah, making some very uncharacteristic throws for a guy who's normally just so pinpoint accurate and can just pick defenses apart. Yeah, he didn't look as sharp at all. And I don't know, again, we've talked about, is he losing some of that rapport and some of that confidence with his wide receivers? They are dropping some balls. Is Rodgers just like sitting back in the pocket going, all right, not you. All right, I guess I'll throw it to you. Look, you dropped it. Great.
Yeah, James Jones didn't have a single reception yesterday, which he was only targeted, I think, maybe once.
Yeah. Once
or twice. Like, I only heard his name tossed out, I think, once yesterday. And, like, it was late in the 3rd or 4th quarter, and when I heard his name, I was like, wait, James Jones is playing today? I didn't realize that I forgot that he was on the field. And James Jones is one of those guys for Green Bay that I forget that he's even on the roster until I actually hear his name called.
Just his homecoming that's been this year, kind of in that reserve role for Jordy Nelson. Yeah, it's been odd.
It really has. Like, I don't know what exactly to make of it. Do Packer fans think that he is such a big savior now as he was in the beginning of the year because he just happened to be that guy that averaged a touchdown a game? I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. I think that Green Bay has enough talent offensively to be just fine.
I think they do, too. I think, some of the positives, the Packers, they're not turning the ball over.
No.
They played turnover-free ball yesterday, only had 1 fumble that Aberderis had that was recovered by the Packers. Rodgers looking good. He was only sacked 3 times. He wasn't really hurried and pressured that much yesterday. I mean, to a point, but not as he had been in some weeks. But again, Richard Rodgers looking good out of the tight end spot. I think a lot of people forget about him.
Yeah.
Because
I don't. He's on my fantasy team.
A tight end out of Green Bay hasn't been very dominant since really like Jermichael Finley when he had a couple good seasons in a row. But everyone's so focused on Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, and as they should be. But Richard Rodgers, like we've said, just quietly does his job. He was perfect on targets to receptions and caught a touchdown. So, again, some bright spots, maybe, but, yeah, they got a lot of soul-searching to do on offense.
Oh, I completely agree with you on that one. Yeah, it has just been quite the interesting turn of events, honestly, with the Green Bay Packers over the last few weeks. But anyway, we are going to jump to a break. When we come back, though, we are going to take a little bit more in-depth look at what's going on with Green Bay moving forward. They do play Minnesota next week and how Green Bay can possibly wrap up the remainder of their season. But before we do, we want to take a quick moment to mention something about Draft Theory. If you love playing fantasy sports, you can join Sam and I on DraftTheory.com this week. That's DraftTheory.com. You can sign up today for free and have your first deposit matched up to $1,000 when you use the promo code BAX. That's BAX on DraftTheory.com.
Yeah, join us as we host an NFL Pick'em game this week. Find all the details on our Facebook page, which is the BG Sports Show, or on DraftTheory.com. Back with more after the break.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I am Bax.
And this is Sam.
Just a reminder for all of you social media lovers out there, make sure to like the BG Sports Show on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show.
You can find news articles, videos, pictures, and more every day. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Baxter Colbert and at Samuel_Wallace2.
All right, Sam. Well, let's take a little bit closer look at what is going on with Green Bay. We talked about the Green Bay Lions game last segment, and now we look ahead to what is going on with the Packers the remainder of the season.
Yeah.
And for some folks, they're probably saying, well, why are you spending so much time on Green Bay? We usually do it once a week where we try to spend a little extra time on Green Bay. We are based in Wisconsin. For those folks that do not know, we're based in Milwaukee, and a majority of our listenership in the area are all Packer fans, so we try to give them a unique perspective of what's going on.
Give us our one day.
Exactly. Every other day of the week, we pretty much don't even touch Green Bay
No.
anything, honestly. So you got to give us a little bit of something here. Otherwise, we'd go mad if we didn't talk about the Packers.
It's true.
So Green Bay, they have 7 games left in
Yes,
their
they
regular
do.
season. They go to Minnesota this coming weekend, Sam. Usually, I would say, well, it's Minnesota. Green Bay should walk all over them. But good morning from Russia. Hello. Morvin Rassam, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Sorry, somebody on Periscope saying hello to us. We have Green Bay, Minnesota this week.
Yep.
Have you ever been more concerned about a Packers-Vikings game in your life post Brett Favre?
I'll say post. I'm glad you said that. Post Brett Favre, not really. I mean, the Vikings have tended to be just annoyingly pesky at times, and can make it interesting. AP could just go off at any time. He seems to really like playing the Packers, and he basically went off for his career day against the Packers in Week 17 a number of years ago. For his rushing record, and came up like 9 yards short or 8 yards short, something like that. But
Just missed it.
yeah, missed it by that much. To your point, though, the Packers are no longer in first place in the NFC North.
No.
The Vikings have sole control, and if the Vikings win this game, not only do they own the tiebreaker, but they also own a 2-game lead, which could be huge.
That's huge.
And then you almost have to, not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but you almost have to start considering how well the Bears are playing now. Cutler's playing very, very well right now. Do they get Matt Forte back mid to late season? I guess we're mid-season right now. Do they get Cutler or Forte back later this year? Do they start making a little bit of a push? The Packers kind of start falling back down into the middle of their division. Who knows what could happen? I mean, it goes without saying, but the Packers need to win this game.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Chicago, who they have to finish out the year. They played Denver, Green Bay, San Francisco, Washington, Minnesota, Tampa, and Detroit. That's Chicago.
Chicago's got a great schedule. Normally, I'd circle Denver on their calendar and be like, not looking great, but Denver hasn't looked great the last 2 weeks.
No, absolutely not. We have somebody on Periscope saying that they'll lose to Tampa, but the way that Chicago played yesterday and the way Tampa played yesterday, I would have to put my money on Chicago.
Yeah, Cutler's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, I know he did a lot of his damage yesterday with the long ball, and he had like 2 touchdowns of 80 yards or more.
He's got a great arm.
He's got a great arm. He really does. He's got a very, very big arm. But, yeah, we'll see.
So let's walk through these games here then. So Minnesota, if Adrian Peterson's running game is on point, which we assume it will be against a very spotty run defense for Green Bay, Minnesota wins this game, and if they do, by how much?
Man, I think Minnesota could win this game by as much as 10 points.
Wow.
If the Packers defense...
And this is at Minnesota, too.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
If the Packers defense continues to play as poorly as it has played, and if AP just goes off, the way the Packers are playing right now, it would not shock me if the game came out to be like, 24-10, 24-14, something like that.
So when is Aaron Rodgers going to have his coming out party? When is he going to finally wake up this season? Is it going to be against the Bears? Is it going to be against the Lions? It could be against the Bears on Thanksgiving night when it's Brett Favre's night under the limelight, but we've seen him cave the last 2 times. They've had big national televised games.
Yeah, it could be this weekend. Playing in a dome always helps quarterbacks, especially a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and things like that. I think it's one of those aspects that Rodgers could have his coming out party literally at any moment.
Yes.
I think he's that good.
And if this were a fully healthy Packers team against all these other teams being fully healthy down the stretch, this is not an easy schedule to finish out. But the fact of the matter is that Dallas, well, yes, they'll have Tony Romo and Des Bryant back, but that game doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't make a single thing. Oakland, maybe by that point, will more than likely be out of playoff contention at that moment as well.
Exactly.
Arizona's going to be hot the rest of the way, though. The Vikings are going to be hot the rest of the way.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Bears still have an outside shot, so they're going to bring it all. On Detroit, they already beat Green Bay once, so they're going to think, we're not going to the playoffs, but heck, if we can beat Green Bay again, boom.
To sweep Green Bay, I mean, that last game's going to be at Ford Field, so who knows what's going to happen. They're going to be just excited to play them again.
Absolutely. So if you are Green Bay, and I know we always joke about this, but if Ted Thompson, for one moment, were to actually remember that he has a lot of money at his disposal, what position would you address first this offseason?
Gosh, I don't know. It's tough because the Packers, they have so much talent across a lot of different positions on their team. They're very talented on the defensive end. I think a lot of it's just coaching. Obviously a great talented quarterback, very talented wide receivers. Maybe build up that defensive line a little bit. They need to start getting some more pressure on the quarterback. I think that's one thing. They're letting quarterbacks stand in the pocket too long and just pick their defense apart.
I agree. Yeah, they're getting so much pressure in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, they're not rushing. They have no constant pressure up the middle. Their outside rush is Clay Matthews, basically, and all they've had to do really this year is go one guy on Clay Matthews, and he hasn't been able to get around anybody. Julius Peppers has been fairly non-existent. B.J. Raji, Mike Daniels, Mike Pennell, even none of the three down linemen in the 3-4 base package are doing anything.
Yeah,
they really look bad.
It's so true. So again, like when you said, if the Packers are going to kind of revamp and beef up any portion of their team right now with the money that the Packers actually do have right now, I mean,
they do.
They're very, very kind of a conservative, stingy spending team, which is good, and it's done very, very well for them.
Absolutely.
And the players have really bought into that, which has been great. A couple years ago, A.J. Hawk was willing to let his contract be restructured, and actually he took less money in order to stay with the Packers, and that's kind of been the mantra that they've had, but I think their defensive line definitely needs to be doing something more.
Absolutely, yeah. When you talk about how much money this team has, and there'll actually be a fairly good crop of free agents this upcoming year as well. So it's something that for the Packers to think about, as they go forward. But I'm not exactly sure what makes the most sense going forward. I mean, look at guys like Von Miller will be a free agent this year. Eric Weddle will be a free agent this year. Leon Hall from Cincinnati. There's a few decent guys right off the bat that you can think of that are going to be like, oh, I might want to keep an eye on them. Hagalate Nagata from Detroit as well as another guy. Eric Berry. I mean, all what's left of Jason Pierre-Paul is a free agent this year. There's not a lot of guys that are. Prince Amukamara is another guy. So there's a few good guys just right off the bat. On a quick look, Tom Bahali, Justin Tuck, Nick Fairley. Green Bay would be a much better team even to sign one or two of those guys.
Yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see what happens by the end of this season. They're going to have to make do with what they got right now. The guys are going to have to step up.
Exactly.
They're going to have to step up and start making plays and start getting some consistent pressure on quarterbacks.
Does Green Bay go out of its way to find anybody on the offensive line, you feel?
I don't know. I don't think they go out of their way. I would just like to see that. I would just like to see the guys that they have play well and stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Russell Okonkwo will be one of the guys from Seattle. That'll be a free agent this year. Looking around, there's really nobody else that has a big name that'll be a free agent. There's a good amount of guys that will be free agents. Andre Smith will be one. Donald Penn, Alex Boone, a few guys that if you're followers of said teams you would recognize, but. Nobody really comes out, though, as someone that is going to be a huge guy. The biggest person that is going to be costing the most money to anybody in a free agent next year, though, is Sam Bradford with his $12.9 million that he's causing in cap space this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if you're Green Bay, then going forward, there's a lot of different things that you can look at, a lot of different possibilities of what you can do.
Yep.
I think Green Bay offensively is fine. They need to bring in some more offensive line talent. I think defensively they need to actually spend some money and bring in some bigger guys. We saw what happened when they brought in Peppers immediately, and they did very, very well. So they need to go out and find a few more guys like that, either do some trading or go out and actually spend some money free agent-wise as well.
Yep, and traditionally the Packers have drafted very, very well in recent years, which has been nice to see from a fan perspective, that they're not just bombing out of drafts, going for these big name players. They usually do really well in kind of like that 4, 5, and 6 round of finding some good quality players that they can build into their system.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, well, Sam, we have to jump off to a break, but before we do, we want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors of the show, Student Debt Center. You can call them now to inquire about your student loans being reduced. That number is 855-401-3508 to make one easy student loan payment and to stop or avoid garnishments from your check. That number again is 855-401-3508.
Yeah, again, make sure you call that number for lower payments based on your income and living circumstances rather than a fixed interest rate. Call now before Congress makes cuts to the national budget, which will nullify this free program. Remember that number one more time is 855-401-3508. Back with more after this.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I am Bax.
And this is Sam.
How you doing today, Sam? You having a good show so far?
I'm having a great show. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm doing really well.
It's a good Monday.
Yeah, I'm having fun so far. It's been a good time talking about football and
yeah.
everything that we do here. But we want to take a moment to remind all of you wonderful listeners out there that you can catch the BG Sports Show live from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and on Periscope every Monday through Friday.
We are also broadcasted from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in. Come check us out.
All right, Sam, what the hell is wrong with Peyton Manning?
Who?
Peyton.
Eli Manning?
Peyton.
No, Peyton.
The less successful of the two Manning brothers.
Who's got two
Statistically.
rings? Eli's got 2 rings.
Yes.
I'm always going to love that. And,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I don't know. Man, you go 5 for 20 to start the game and you throw 4 interceptions. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough way to play. And then getting benched to a guy whose last name is Osweiler. I can't even pronounce
I mean, his
it.
first name is Brock. Isn't that a Pokemon trainer's name, for gosh sakes? Like,
Brock.
anytime you get benched by a made-up character, it just doesn't even make sense to me, honestly. So with this, I mean, the Denver Broncos are just... Yeah, I don't even have words for what the Denver Broncos are right now, honestly.
It's just, there's the hot mess.
They really are, after
they're-
looking like one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, their defense is looking, has looked good, but to give up as many points as they did to the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City is in second place now at 4-5. Denver looked. The only reason that they're asking, Cam Fitch is asking us on Periscope how Denver was undefeated. Well, they were undefeated because their defense played really well.
Yeah.
And they showed that against Green Bay, and then they've just dwindled ever since then.
Yeah, it's not been looking good in Denver at all. And,
No.
People keep talking about Peyton's arm strength like, yeah, he's fine. A lot of those balls were underthrown.
Oh, he looked terrible
It
yesterday.
wasn't like they were off target. They were there. They were just underthrown.
Exactly.
So I don't know how you cannot, again, who knows? Maybe his arm strength is there, maybe it's not, but
I don't think it is.
the evidence is not there.
No.
It's not. If he was just missing guys, throwing the ball way over their head or something like that, but he's consistently throwing short.
We have a recommendation that we should pump him up with some stem cells, and then he'll be fine. That'll maybe help. I'm not exactly sure if that's endorsed or not, but we could maybe do that.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
We'll phone a friend. Appreciate that recommendation there.
Yep.
Aside from that, though, Sam, I mean, looking at this Broncos team and a lot of the other teams that are out there in the NFL right now, what other teams have really stood out to you that after this last weekend of play?
That have stood out as playing like exceptionally well. Or
It just stood out to you.
exceptionally
I mean,
poorly?
sometimes the team can stand out to you whether it is good or bad. I mean, I've noticed just how poorly San Diego is. I know they had a bye week this last week, but I've been shocked by how poorly they've played. Cleveland, I'm not really surprised that they're 2-8, honestly. I'm just a little surprised that New England just continues to find a way to win, though.
Yeah, it's true. They're built to win. They really, really
They
are.
really are. And I'm glad that, an organization has been able to put it all together after having such a controversial, crazy offseason. They
Yep.
were able to put all the craziness behind them. And as soon as New England loses, the media is going to lose their mind and saying, they finally cracked. Yeah, down with the Patriots.
People just look for that one hiccup on every team, every player. But I guess a team that's really sticking out to me right now is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, why is that?
Yes, they took care of business at home against the Browns like they should have.
Mm-hmm.
But
With their backup, Ben Roethlisberger.
yeah, with their backup quarterback Ben Roethlisberger playing out of his mind, I think they should start him next week. I really think they should. He's been looking good this year.
I don't know. It might be a little too soon. I don't want to throw it all on him right away.
Yeah, we'll see. That Landry Jones kid
Bring him
might-
off the bench.
might do something.
Yeah, right.
He's a
good
good
guy.
reserve player.
Good guy.
But I think the Steelers are very, very balanced now. They have a good running back in DeAndre Williams, who, although didn't look great in the first half, he actually had negative rushing yards for the better part of the first half. And they didn't feed him the ball a ton. He finished with 17 carries for 54 yards. But Martavis Bryant and Antonio Brown, both having over 150 yards receiving yesterday, was
That's huge.
crazy.
It's amazing what running quick slants all day can do for you. If
And
only
you know
Green
what?
Bay ran that.
Yeah, Antonio Brown had 139 yards. I correct myself. So 139 yards for Antonio Brown, 178 for Martavis Bryant. They both wheeled in a touchdown. They're looking good. They're able to spread the ball around quite a bit,
They are.
which is awesome. And Ben is playing very, very well right now.
I'd absolutely agree with you on that one. The absence of Le'Veon Bell is not even affecting Pittsburgh right now. Folks thought that it might. They're saying, oh my gosh, Le'Veon Bell is hurt. Pittsburgh Super Bowl chances are gone. This organization's terrible. We should fire Mike Tomlin. Blah,
They're a
blah,
great
blah.
postseason team.
Exactly.
And again, they're one of those teams kind of like the Giants, I feel like, where if anybody can take down New England, it's Pittsburgh.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that happening, a potential Super Bowl matchup.
I'd agree with you on that one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the upcoming weeks of action, though, when we do finally get a chance to see Pittsburgh and Cincinnati back at each other again. And we don't see that for 3 more weeks, unfortunately. Pittsburgh goes to Seattle this coming week.
Yeah, that's going to be an odd game. Those are two teams that we generally don't see play each other
No,
a ton.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Then Pittsburgh is at home against Indianapolis, and then they finally go to Cincinnati again. So Pittsburgh's offense, from a statistical standpoint, is 13th in the league in passing yards with 258 a game. Rushing yards, they're a top 10 team with 126 yards a game.
Yep.
They're only allowing 19 points a game, so that's 5th best defensively.
Yeah.
And they're a top 15 offense with 23.6 points a game.
Yeah, they're just playing very complete football right now. They're very, very balanced. Kind of like what the Carolina Panthers are doing right now as well. Good rushing game, good quarterback, just comparable wide receivers and a good defense, and that's what gets the job done.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. Now, I'm curious about your thoughts on this, Sam.
Oh, boy.
If you are a opponent and you are playing the New England Patriots,
Yep.
and there's a controversial call at the end of the game, are the officials more likely to side with the Patriots in their favor of which way the call needs to go than the opposing team because it's New England?
I don't want to have to believe that, because I'd like to believe that all officials are completely objective and they call it like they see it. But if you want to look at any official and say, all right, look, it's the New England Patriots, it's Tom Brady, it's Bill Belichick, the legacy of the Patriots, how successful they are, and you're going to sit there and tell me there's not some part of your mind that's saying, well, maybe I'm not quite seeing it the way I first thought I saw it.
Yeah.
I think that's a total lie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I feel that there's been a few times throughout the last several years that New England has had calls go their way.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where you've looked at it and the evidence is usually against them. But it's like, well, it's the Patriots, though. Like, why would I bet against them?
I don't think the officials are going out of their way and saying, all right.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope they're not going out of their way and saying, all right, well, it's wrong, but maybe they look at it, one more time or don't look at it another time and say, yeah, that looks good. Maybe that's just kind of the mental approach they take, and whether that's, appropriate or not, I guess remains to be seen and kind of left up to the officials. We just still have to kind of put the game in their hands and trust that they're doing the best job that they're able.
Yep, exactly. And I think some of that goes to the most recent episode where Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch was ruled not a touchdown after it looked like he clearly had possession of the ball. But we saw that happen again in the Giants game.
Yep.
We saw that happen in the Packers game as well. Or in the Cardinals game, in the Cardinals game as well, where there was just these 2 quick turnarounds really fast. And it's like, well, what constitutes a football move? What constitutes having possession of the ball?
Is it taking a step? Is it turning your body? Is it making a move up
the
field?
What's considered a football move?
See, you're
playing the game of football. Everything's a football move.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, one of those things where unless it's blatantly obvious, it's almost like whatever the initial call is what you have to go with, because there's not going to be enough evidence to turn it the other way.
Exactly, and that's the hard part about it is what cost do the referees figure this out? And like it is, like folks have mentioned too, and I think as soon as the call went against the Giants, everybody was going, oh, the refs are in favor of New England. Like, how could you do that? I mean, if this had been in New England, people would have lost their minds. But the fact that it was in the Giants stadium, there was still that little bit of air, though, saying, well, wait, how is this call against the Giants? But
tough to say.
It is, and it's really tough. And the NFL, I think, is at this point now where everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
Where it's going to take more than 5 or 6 referees. It's going to take the guys in the booth. It's going to take all this extra technology to almost get every single penalty and every call figured out.
And then you come into that conversation too. It's like, well, how much do we start to rely on technology then to play the game?
Yep.
How much is it, ruin the integrity of the game? And sometimes, there have been blown calls. Everyone knows there's been blown calls in games that people have gotten wrong and they've decided big games. And you know what? I'm almost okay with that, because that's just the nature of the game. Officials are human. They're going to make mistakes. That's how the game was played even before we had instant replay and things like that. So I don't know. It's one of those things that's really going to become more of a topic, I feel, in years to come when technology really starts to really take over athletics as a whole.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you on that. When the officiating as a whole is just kind of skewed. It's hard to really understand, do we need more refs? Do we need more technology? Yep. Well, we don't know. Football is one of those games that it's very difficult to figure out what happened every single play.
Exactly.
All right, well, we're going to jump to a break. When we come back, Connor Christensen is in studio to offer his fight corner today, not his fitness tip, just because of the craziness that happened at UFC 193 over the weekend. We'll talk about that. It'll be head smashing good. You're not going to want to miss it. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And I'm Connor.
Good morning, Connor. Welcome to the studio, sir. How are you?
Oh, doing really, really well. How are you?
I'm good. You must be just loving life right now because your Vikings are on top of the NFC North.
Oh, yeah.
And life, I'm sure, is very good to be a Minnesotan today.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
I was able to see the game, so it was, which I'm not able to see most of the game. So.
You're a busy guy. I understand that.
Yeah, and actually being able to watch the Vikings play is.
Gets you right there.
It was good.
Exactly. All right. Well, Connor, usually on Mondays we ask you for your fitness tip, but of course, with all the craziness that happened at UFC 193 this last weekend, we wanted to flip your segments around. So your fitness tip will be on Thursday for fans that were looking for it today, and your fight corner is today, sir. So the floor is yours. Let's hear about it and all the craziness that did ensue.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, we'll get to Ronda. We'll get there, but. We're going to start with the first fight. So I had said Stefan Struve versus Jared Rosholt was going to be won by Rosholt via decision, and that was correct. I got that one. Rosholt fought it exactly the way he needed to. Stefan Struve is 7 feet tall, likes to submit his opponent.
Yeah,
Rosholt needed to keep the fight on the ground, keep him wrestling, and wear him down, which is exactly what he did. It wasn't a fun fight to watch necessarily because it wasn't action-packed or anything like that, but very, very technically wrestling. It was well done by Rosholt, so he definitely deserved that win. The next fight was Uriah Hall versus Robert Whittaker, and I gave the fight to Uriah Hall. I thought he was the faster, stronger fighter for sure, and I said he needed to get a knockout. That was how he was going to win because Whittaker is a very, very consistent fighter. He is a very he's technically good. He will keep you on your toes the entire match. So unless you caught him, you know if that goes to decision, Whittaker was going to take it, and he did take it. So Uriah Hall was not able to find the knockout, and Robert Whittaker won at the end by decision. So very, very well done by Whittaker. Now the next one was Mark Hunt versus Antonio Silva, and I said that Mark Hunt was going to win via knockout in either late round 1 or early round 2, and that was also the case. Mark Hunt found Silva's chin at the end of round 1 and knocked him out, which was a very good rematch for the two of them. Last time they fought, they were bloodied and beaten, like literally covered in blood, fighting each other. It is pretty brutal. But this time Mark Hunt was able to find it right away, and Silva was brought down. The co-main event, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Valerie Letourneau, was for the strawweight belt, and Jędrzejczyk is a phenomenal fighter, and I had been saying that for months now. And she's a brawler. She was going to come in. It wasn't going to be technically Jędrzejczyk is actually very technically sound, but if you're just watching and you don't really know what you're watching, it looks like she's just throwing punches and kicks and whatever. But her fighting ability is she is probably the best all-around female fighter.
Wow.
Pound for pound.
Have her and Ronda ever fought?
No, they're different weight classes.
Oh, okay.
Jędrzejczyk is strawweight and Ronda is bantamweight.
Gotcha.
And so Joanna Jędrzejczyk was able to come out with a decision win over Letourneau. I was watching the fight with Corey Plath, and Corey made the comment, Letourneau doesn't even know where she is after half of round 2, because Jędrzejczyk has been landing kicks to the face, punches to the face. I'm looking at some of the in fight pictures. Oh,
and they just both look horrible.
Yeah,
they both look so beat up.
Yeah, it was long drawn out bloody fight, and that was exactly what it was going to be. And everybody knew it, and they delivered the fight that everybody wanted to see, and Jędrzejczyk came out with the win. Now, moving on to Ronda versus Holm. I came in saying that Ronda was going to win in less than 50 seconds.
Yes.
And thank you, Cam. That is precisely true. Cam Fitch says Ronda fought her fight in all the wrong ways. Ronda didn't even fight. That was not Ronda. Whoever that was trying to outbox Holly Holm. And I don't know why you would try to stand up with one of the best female boxers in the sport, because Holly Holm is faster.
Yes.
Holly Holm is more technical. If you had come to me and said before that fight that Ronda's going to try to stand up with Holly Holm, I was going to say, no, she's not. Why would she do that? She's going to lose.
Yeah.
Why would she stand up? So if that was the game plan, if that was what her coaches and her trainers were saying, where I believe in you, you can outbox Holly Holm, like, that's great. I understand that you want to believe in your fighters.
Sure, yeah.
And you want to pump them up and you want to get them motivated, but you have to be realistic as well. Ronda needed to play to her strength, which was aggression and strength.
Absolutely.
Because Ronda is stronger than Holly Holm.
Yes.
And she should have pressed the takedown rather than trying to outbox Holly Holm. Because any time you try to take on someone who's better than you in an aspect of fighting, you're going to lose.
Absolutely. And I was watching some of the highlights of this match as well, too, and it didn't look like Ronda. She looked very timid. She looked very set back, and she was just kind of like, randomly just like, oh, I'll take a swing at you. I'll take a swing at you. It's like, no, she didn't look aggressive. She didn't try to bring the fight to Holly. She let it come to her.
Everybody was saying, oh, Ronda was too aggressive, and there's a difference between aggression and chasing, because Ronda was just basically running after her, chasing after her. And instead of being aggressive technically, she was just chasing after looking for a knockout. And Ronda did not show up. And I think that's the reason, more so than anything else, that we need a rematch.
I was going to say, so you're in support of the rematch? They asked Holly after it, and they said that she said she'd be completely fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be a rematch because, first of all, women's UFC just got really interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now we know for a fact that Holly Holm is a Ronda caliber fighter, if not higher than that. So having those two finally gives Ronda a rival.
Absolutely.
Gives her something to train for, which will be good for building Ronda as a better fighter. Overall, this might be better for Ronda's fight career, to be honest, her having this loss.
I think so.
Even the greatest athletes lose. That's just how athletics works.
Exactly. You can't be the best for the entirety of your career. It's just not how it works. Your body gets tired. You make one simple mistake and someone punishes you for it. It's just how it happens.
That is how it happens. So I think in the rematch, Ronda needs to fight her way, and that was if Ronda had fought Holly Holm her way. I don't know. Holly Holm looked phenomenal in that fight. I'm not taking anything away from Holly Holm. She fought her heart out. She was technically just brilliant, and then landed some strikes that most people would not have been able to land. So well done, Holly Holm. We'll see if Ronda can take it in the rematch.
Absolutely. So if you're Ronda Rousey from here, where do you go?
You go back to your game. You work on your game. You work on your basics. You don't stand up with Holly Holm. Work on your striking, but work on your boxing defense more than your striking ability. Work the takedowns. Go back to your basics.
All right. Well, fair enough. Well, thank you, Connor. We appreciate you stopping by the show here on Monday, as you normally do for your fitness tip. But as we mentioned, today was your fight corner, so we'll look forward to your fitness tip on Thursday, sir. So appreciate that. All right. Well, you've listened to another edition of the BG Sports Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can get us right here Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. You can also get us on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time, and on demand anytime you want on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com. You can also find us on social media on Facebook at The BG Sports Show, on Twitter at BG Sports Show, and on Instagram at BG Sports Show. You can follow myself and Sam on Twitter at Baxter Colburn and at Samuel_Wallace2. Samuel Wallace has been my co-host. Connor Christensen has been our guest today. I'm Baxter Colburn. We'll see all of you again tomorrow for David Kenyon of Bleacher Report and so much more football and NBA madness. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.